Hello Dub Nation, see in this video in detail the future of the Warriors squad, who leaves and who returns next season. Given recent difficulties, the Warriors are forced to reevaluate their squad if they hope to rekindle past glories. Aspirations to return to the playoffs next season make free agency vital for the Golden State Warriors. Despite the limitations faced by being above the luxury tax threshold, re-signing their own free agents becomes a priority for the Warriors, at least those they intend to keep in the future. Some are key pieces, like the legendary Klay Thompson, while others occupy lower positions on the list. The Warriors could have as many as 7 free agents this offseason, many of whom may not return to the franchise, considering player options and team situations along with possible extensions in the coming weeks. Let's look at the players who could become free agents this offseason, classifying them as very likely and unlikely to return to the Warriors roster. The Golden State Warriors, a team that once dominated the NBA, currently find themselves at a crossroads after failing to qualify for the playoffs for the third time in 5 years. Despite promising moments, there is a prevailing feeling of uncertainty over the franchise. This uncertainty is partially attributed to Klay Thompson's impending free agency and the realization that even with most of the core players healthy, the team finished a disappointing 10th in the competitive Western Conference. The Warriors, once synonymous with championship contention, now face the harsh reality that their dynasty may be coming to an end despite the emergence of young talent. However, owner Joe Lacob's priorities may be different. Lacob expressed a desire to avoid the punitive luxury tax penalties by reducing the team's payroll. While this financial strategy may ease short-term burdens, it could condemn the Warriors to a prolonged period of mediocrity, culminating in a season geared towards the 2025 draft lottery. With these challenges, it is inevitable that the Warriors will be active in the market of trades during the next off-season. Gary Payton too left the Warriors as a free agent 2 years ago, but he's much less likely to leave this time. The situations could not be more different. Payton was making less than $2 million in the 2021-22 season and was seeking a reasonable pay raise after going from the last man on the roster to a key contributor on a championship team. He secured a contract with the Portland Trail Blazers before being traded back to the Warriors at last season's trade deadline. However, Payton has been plagued by injuries since signing the contract, playing in just 66 of a possible 164 regular season games. The defenseman now has a chance to be a free agent again as he has a $9.1 million player option. Given the injury concerns, expect Payton to choose that option and continue his career with the Warriors. The only reason he could opt out would be to negotiate a new contract that offers him more long-term security and gives the Warriors a discount on next year's contract. Dario Saric Warriors fans were excited when the franchise managed to sign Dario Saric to a minimum contract in last year's free agency, and that joy seemed well-founded heading into the season as the Croatian played a key role in Steve's rotation Kerr. Unfortunately, things quickly went downhill for the veteran, to the point where he fell out of the rotation and never returned. Saric's defense simply wasn't up to par, and it's no coincidence that Golden State finished the regular season strong with him on the bench. Perhaps the Warriors believed they could get more out of Saric in his second season in the Bay Area, but it's unlikely that either the player or the franchise will have much interest in a reunion when free agency arrives. Kevon Looney has played a significant role in 3 consecutive championship victories with the Warriors, initially as a substitute in 2018 and then as a starter in 2022. Despite not taking part in postseason games, he contributed to the 2017 championship triumph, having been picked 30th overall in the 2015 draft. At 6 feet 9 inches, Looney has an impressive appearance record, playing in 289 consecutive games, including playoff appearances, before temporarily falling out of the rotation this season. That hiatus saw the team opt to smaller lineups, favoring Jonathan Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis over Looney. In the last 41 games, his playing time has decreased to an average of just 11.1 minutes per game, appearing in 33 games. Expenses and avoid going over the luxury tax threshold, there is a critical analysis of the value of investing $8 million for just 12 minutes of playing time per game. Looney, a seasoned veteran with valuable skills, can still be a beneficial asset if utilized correctly. His experience and ability could attract interest from teams looking for a reliable center. With just 1 year left on his contract, Looney could be included in a larger deal to balance the finances. Despite the reduction in playing time, Coach Steve Kerr continues to praise his contributions, emphasizing his leadership qualities. However, given current salary constraints and the team's financial goals, there is a growing need for greater on-court productivity from Looney or potential alternatives. Andrew Wiggins is another player the Warriors explored the possibility of trading before the trade deadline and will continue to consider this offseason. During the 2022 championship campaign, he was arguably the Warriors' second-best player, but had a disappointing season afterwards, posting a negative value over replacement player, VORP. Teams don't know which version of Wiggins they will get, the player who averaged 27.0 minutes per game this season and never looked in top form, or the 2022 All-Star version. Wiggins has played just 37 games in 2023, but found his groove in the playoffs. He improved throughout the season, but not enough to make up for his poor start. Wiggins has a $54.5 million contract for the next 2 years and a $3.1 million player option for the 2026-27 season. Having a player below replacement level making nearly $30 million a year is not ideal. Wiggins just turned 29 and still has many productive years ahead of him. He needs to rediscover his form, and the Warriors would be foolhardy to sell him at a low price without first seeing if he can bounce back next season. Golden State hopes to find a team willing to pay for Andrew Wiggins. The Mavericks and Bucks were rumored to be interested parties ahead of the trade deadline. If a team believes Wiggins can make a difference, they can acquire him for a reasonable price. Klay Thompson's free agency is undoubtedly the biggest issue facing the franchise right now. It's worth noting that the veteran pitcher could still sign an early extension, but it seems inevitable that he will test the market as he explores his options. The Orlando Magic have been the team most linked to Thompson due to their salary cap space this offseason, although they could prioritize Paul George or Malik Monk as free agents at similar positions. The Dallas Mavericks have also been mentioned as a potential destination for the five-time All-Star, although that would have to be through a sign-and-trade rather than an outright signing. Thompson's future may ultimately depend on how much bargaining power he has in the form of offers from rival teams and whether Golden State is willing to match a similar price. There is still a belief that the 34-year-old and the franchise want to reunite, but the Warriors will still need to show enough respect for one of the all-time greats. The Warriors are interested in bringing back Klay Thompson. He is one of the greatest shooters in NBA history and played a crucial role in Golden State winning 4 championships. The team wants him to remain a Warrior for life, but finding a new contract that is a win-win for both parties could be challenging. The Warriors offered him an extension, but it involved a significant pay cut for Thompson. He's no longer a max contract player, and the question is how much less Thompson is willing to accept to stay in the Bay Area. There will be sizable offers in free agency if he wants to maximize his earnings. Thompson will likely choose to leave if he wants to maximize his earnings, depending on what the future Hall of Famer wants. The Warriors cannot sign him and trade him for players if they remain above the first tax threshold under the new CBA. If he decides to leave, Golden State could get a draft pick or 2, but not much more. The team needs him back if they plan to remain competitive. The Warriors can't just let him walk without any return, and if they can't re-sign him, they must try to get any return in a sign and trade deal. The uncertainty surrounding Thompson's free agency puts him at the top of this list, but there is one veteran who stands out as the player they should trade if the Warriors want to get back into the competition. Moses Moody is a pending decision for the Warriors. He is eligible for an extension before next season, and if both parties cannot reach an agreement, the 6 feet 6 inches winger will become a restricted free agent in the summer of 2025. Golden State needs to decide whether to pay or trade him for get value in return while avoiding losing him for free. The 21-year-old Moody continues to improve, but has yet to secure a consistent role. Moody averaged 8.1 points and 3.0 rebounds in 17.5 minutes per game this season, but played more than 30 minutes only twice and scored fewer than 9 points on 11 occasions. He also missed 16 games, and his playing time has been very inconsistent. Moody has untapped potential, being the last pick in the 2021 draft and younger than several players who will be selected in the 2024 draft. Whether he will develop into the winger every team wants is still uncertain, as Golden State didn't give him enough opportunities to find out. Klay Thompson is a free agent, and Andrew Wiggins is available for trade. If both return next season, Moody should be traded as he needs playing time that he simply won't get in the Bay Area. Lester Quinones was converted from a two-way contract to a standard contract in February and now enters free agency, where the Warriors own his early bird rights. The 23-year-old has shown enough to suggest he can become a legitimate NBA player, including a 20-game midseason stretch where he averaged 5.7 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 1.2 assists in almost 15 minutes per game. It's difficult to see where Quinones fits in the Warriors' rotation next season, but that could change quickly depending on what happens with Klay Thompson and Chris Paul. Quinones may not necessarily be a priority for Golden State, opening up the possibility of him being targeted by rival teams, but there is still a reasonable chance he returns to the franchise on a minimum contract at the end of the bench. Brandin Podziemski, an unexpected revelation, is an example of a young talent that the Warriors are not willing to trade. The 6 feet 5 inches point guard performed fantastically in his rookie year. No one expected the 19th pick in the draft to play such a crucial role in the rotation, but Podziemski proved himself indispensable. In his first game over 30 minutes, he scored 23 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and dished out 5 assists, cementing his place in the rotation. At age 21, he averaged 9.2 points, 5.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and 0.8 steals in 26.6 minutes per game, shooting 38.5% on three-point shots, impacting both sides of the court. Although he is a rotation player, Podziemski is desired by any NBA team. Trade, they will have to sacrifice young talent, draft picks, and salary fillers. While they are unlikely to trade Jonathan Kuminga after his impressive performance in his third year, the other young players are potentially available for the right trade. Chris Paul, the crucial point here is that Chris Paul is not actually a free agent, at least not yet, with the franchise influencing whether that happens. Most expect the Warriors to terminate the 39-year-old's $30 million non-guaranteed contract, opening the chance for Paul to become a free agent for the first time in his illustrious career. If they secure the contract, it's a clear sign that the franchise will look to trade the 12-time All-Star for more valuable help. If Paul becomes a free agent, Golden State could try to bring him back on a smaller contract, which certainly has some validity given his strong performance as a sixth man and occasional starter. The next question is whether Paul would have the incentive to re-sign, especially given his ambition to chase that much-coveted NBA title. There will likely be more championship-caliber teams that could attract Paul to be their backup, while he could also be interested in having a bigger impact in a younger, rebuilding organization like the San Antonio Spurs. Chris Paul remains completely non-guaranteed until June 28th, presenting the Warriors with a crucial pick. Despite being 39 years old and beyond his prime, the veteran point guard still has the potential to make significant contributions on the court. Using Paul as a trade asset to guarantee a substantial improvement appears to be Golden State's most promising strategy to compete next season. Numerous rebuilding teams would gladly embrace CP3's leadership and experienced presence, as long as the future Hall of Famer is willing to take on such a role. His time with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2020 exemplified this, as his guidance led the team unexpectedly to the playoffs. While victories may not be immediate, Paul's mentorship could profoundly influence the development of emerging talent, addressing the Warriors' pressing needs for perimeter defense and floor spacing. The possibility of trading Chris Paul for an elite wing specializing in three-pointers and defense, or a point guard proficient in scoring capable of nullifying opposing playmakers, arises. Identifying the ideal combination can be challenging, but it is the clearest path to Golden State's progress. Usman Garuba. There was some optimism about what Usman Garuba could offer the Golden State Warriors when the former first-round pick signed a two-way contract last offseason. In fact, the 22-year-old spent almost the entire season in the G League, where he averaged a double-double despite playing just 18 minutes total for Golden State throughout the season. Garuba signed a standard contract just before the postseason. Whether this was simply to give the Warriors an extra body should they make the playoffs, or whether it is a sign that Garuba still has a future with the franchise, will be revealed in the coming months. It's hard to imagine the Warriors giving Garuba a spot on the main roster next season, although they could be interested in bringing him back on a two-way contract if no rival teams show interest. Jerome Robinson benefited from the extra roster spots teams now have available, but he was never able to earn a spot in the Warriors' rotation. In his fourth NBA season, the 27-year-old averaged 3.7 minutes in 22 games, almost all of which was garbage time. The former lottery pick produced little in those limited minutes, shooting 33.3% from the floor and a paltry 11.8% from the three-point line. He also failed to find a rhythm in the G League, having spent most of his time with the first team, which limited him to just 12 games for the Santa Cruz Warriors. Since he is no longer eligible to sign another two-way contract, there is no reason for Robinson to be on the Warriors roster next season. In fact, there is a very real possibility that he has played his final minutes in the NBA. Steph Curry, the face of the franchise and still an elite player, undoubtedly wants to compete for championships rather than stagnate on a rebuilding team. However, any attempts to bolster the roster through trades will require reducing salaries to comply with league financial regulations, a complex task given the intricacies of the new collective bargaining agreement. One player who could be involved in trades is Gary Payton II, who has a $9.1 million player option for the 2024-25 season. If he chooses to stay, the Warriors could look to renegotiate his contract to lessen his impact on the salary cap. While Payton is valued for his defensive ability and contributions as a rotation player, his recurring health issues raise concerns. Despite playing in 71 games during the Warriors' 2022 title season, he appeared in just 44 games in 2024, marking the second highest total of his 8-year career. Over the past 3 years, Payton has averaged just 45.6 games per season, a sharp contrast to his peak performance in 2022. For the Warriors to effectively revitalize their roster, they must seriously consider trading Payton II should he opt for his player option. Whether they choose to offload his salary or seek to acquire additional talent in return, the Warriors cannot afford to rely on a player whose availability and impact are uncertain. The upcoming offseason emerges as a critical moment for the Golden State Warriors, ready to reshape the franchise's trajectory. Will they commit to one last attempt at winning the championship, or will they opt for a financial restructuring? Mike Dunleavy Jr. and the front office face a series of daunting choices, leaving fans eager to discover the team's next moves. Expectations surrounding Golden State's future intensify. In conclusion, the future looks uncertain for the Golden State Warriors. With the possibility of losing and adding players to the team and the various trade options available, the Warriors are well positioned to continue to be a force to be reckoned with in the NBA. Stay tuned for more updates on the Warriors, and remember to support by leaving your feedback in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to know when I will send new news. Thank you for following Gold-Blooded News. A hug and see you next time.
Curry for the record. It's good! We're gold-blooded!
Let's go Dubs.